Hello.
Hey, Trent.
Hi.
How's it going?
So far, so good. What's up with you?
I was talking to, hey, Cheryl, speaking of relationships, I was like
Yes.
telling my husband, I was like, you have to listen to like the, Trent's portion of the first podcast. Cause like everything, the very first one we did, because some of like, I think he has it like similar experience.
Oh.
And, what you were describing with like all those symptoms and like just feeling like all that anxiety all the time. And
Oh, the Mandela effect stuff?
well, was it Mandela effect? I just like remember when you were talking about like just when you kind of
The anxiety
had like really bad anxiety and like the meditation was like really the only
panic
thing
attack.
that ever helped you. And
Right.
yeah,
Well, I
the
think
thing with the
what it
shower, I think.
was when I started to have those nervous thoughts or those anxious thoughts and those attacks would happen was because of these memories. I swear they were just memories of things that have not happened. And I was getting confused. I was getting confused of alternate lives that I was living, and what I was really afraid of was that what if I'm not sure of my past, I'm not sure of my present really, and I could be anybody or anything, and I was losing track of myself. So it was kind of like, I guess it was kind of like a Mandela effect thing, because there were so many scenarios and played out. So when those thoughts would occur was when it would shift me over to this like breaking down, and it turned physical, and that's how and that's what led me to understand that it was an anxiety thing. So then researching that, found it was like some type of horrible thing. And, I mean, it was tricky.
No, everything you're saying makes perfect sense. And like, I definitely am trying to work through some of that stuff myself, but I don't really get anxiety. My problem is I just need to be careful about like what I say to who and consider my audience, but I am very aware. And then I need to really do, like, I need to figure, like, I need to make choices and kind of close loops, because we already all are in agreement that, and we've been telling our viewers and our listeners the same thing, that we're all going in and out of so many parallel realities every single second. And how does that, and so what do you do with that? Because that's a lot, and that's science, that's scientific research. It's not made up, it's not Fantasyland, it's not sci-fi novel. This is scientific research. And once I heard that, and it was Bashar who elucidated that for me, I said, oh, that makes a lot of sense, because I knew that was what was going on, but I didn't know it was every single second. I didn't know it was that fast. And it seems like it's getting more and more extreme, to the point where, yeah, like throughout the day, you're like, well, who am I? I mean, it could get really extreme, like for certain people, and it can be kind of intense. And but as long as people, like, my advice to people who are going through that, I'm sure some of the people out here listening are going through that, is to be very clear on what your preference is. Very clear, minute to minute, second to second. Okay, what's my highest passion? What's my highest preference now? How about now? How about now? And be very decisive. To be in wishy-washy, that's where there can be, you can always quote unquote change your mind, but it's very important to keep being decisive. Kind of like men have an easier time, I would say, being decisive sometimes than women. So I feel that women are being called to be more, learn from the men and learn that leadership, and that get decisive and close out loops. Because I know for me, sometimes I couldn't think for myself enough or fast enough on certain things. And I know that that's even something that leaders have to be aware of too. I think I mentioned on one of the other podcasts about Obama just having 2 suits, because he had to make so many decisions a day that he just wanted to alternate between blue and brown, and he didn't want to have to like really make the decision. He wanted to save that part of his energy field and brain for more important decisions of running the country. And even before he was a president, he was doing that. So, and I know that's why I've worked for a lot of men who like are directors at a very high level, and I've worked for like billionaires and millionaires before, and I've noticed that there's certain things like dinner reservations and certain things they need other people to decide. And if they have a problem with it, they'll tell you, but they do not want to be asked, like, where do you want to go? Because they're like, no, I make way too many decisions a day. Like, I'm not even going to waste my time. So it's just important to close out those loops.
Or maybe more like a pick your battles type of thing, because like I used to be so obsessive when I went to a restaurant. I would like annoy people because I'm staring at the menu, and when I was ordering, I'd be like, wait, no, the waitress is standing there. And eventually I just had enough. And when I go to restaurants now, I just close the menu. I say, you decide what I'm going to eat.
What? That is so cool. I'm going to try that.
Every time. And I just deal with it.
That is so cool, Cheryl. Oh my God. Have you ever not liked what they picked?
Not really. I always like it.
That is so bad. I love that. I love that. That is, I appreciate that a lot, clearly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Because, there are certain things also I was going to add to that whole men and women thing. Women consider so many different angles and options, and this is definitely something that men can take some advice from, but at the same time, we have to pick and choose our battles and know when to be a little bit, I don't know, be more stoic, be more observant, be more calm, and know that you're going to know what you need to know when you need to know it. But at the same time, like with men, they can make decisions easier, but a lot of times they will end up making the wrong decision, or they don't want to put too much effort into it. There's always like this balance. Did you guys read that thing I posted you about relationships?
No. Why didn't I read that?
It was just super interesting. I read a bunch of them, and that was one that I linked to you. But men seem to have such a good grasp about relationships, and that, one thing that's weird is that men don't know if they love somebody right away. I've experienced this with a lot of men, not all men, but men don't know what the hell they feel. And
is the one that you are referring to, why do you cheat on your boyfriend or girlfriend, or is it a different one that you're referring to?
It might be a different one, but that one's good too. And it's just a man being so honest. So, because he's anonymous and he's like healing himself while writing that. But no, the one thing that I noticed about what men have to say about relationships is, okay, so like women, right? We think we're just so in love. We're like, oh my God, this is the one. Everything you do is so cute. Look at the way he walks. Look at the way he talks. Holy crap, he's so strong. He's so powerful. And we imagine, oh, the wedding day, what it's going to be like this time, what it's going to be like that time. And, what men were giving men advice in this one forum, and the man was telling him, like, you have to ask yourself. At first, I was like, oh, this is so stupid. Do men not really know this? But then I saw the genius behind it. So the man was telling the other man, you have to ask yourself, do you laugh a lot when you're around her? Do you feel like you can be yourself? Do you get bored? Do you get bored and anxious around them, or like uneasy, unrested, or awkward? If you're awkward around them after you've been with them for a couple months and you spend a long time with them, you say, if so, if you don't feel awkward, you feel okay, you love them, because in time, you know what I mean? Sexual attraction, yeah, it's important. But, and another thing is that's a lot easier for men than women. But after time, you're going to spend a lot of time with this person. I was like, that is so brilliant, because women, we can think that we're so damn in love with somebody, and then like 6 months later, we realize that we're completely freaking awkward around them, and they're not our best friends, and we're not really compatible. You know what I mean? But we got lost in the fog.
Huh.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I think about this stuff. I have this conversation with some men friends of mine too. It's super interesting.
Yeah, one thing that really was interesting to me is, and I guess we should talk about like male-female relationships, and maybe even male-male, female-female, etc. Like, because I just cover all the bases.
Yeah.
if we can. But
if I can relate enough, maybe.
If we can relate enough. But I think, I mean, Yeah. But one thing that I have heard is that, like, women, regardless of what their astrological sign is, it works very well if they can be kind of earthy and like earth tones and water, right? And then it's good if the man can be like fire and air. And air is like thinking, and that kind of has to do with the decision making. And I mean, I think this stuff it all lines up to chakras too. Like earth is clearly like the root chakra, and I think the fire is like the sacral chakra, and I'm not really sure where the water plays in, but and it just, no one ever taught me that. Like, no one ever taught me that, and it's like to learn that in my 30s and still have no idea how to even, because I'm an air sign. I'm air and fire. Like, I'm like Libra Scorpio, like to a T. And so I have to kind of like learn how to be earthy, and it does not come naturally for me at all. It's like really hard for me. Air is very easy for me, and that's very masculine. I have a lot of masculine energy for a woman, I'd say. And you know, some of that is just like, and I think that is sort of a problem that a lot of women are having with their careers and their relationships, is they're just acting kind of like men rather than just working on their feminine power.
I see. I you know how I am. I'm so trippy, and I see things so completely different. And I've thought about this a lot, about how men playing their role and women playing their role. And I don't know, like I see exactly what you mean, and I can probably bridge the two perspectives. But one thing that I have learned recently, especially, you know, I dated a transgender male to female, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I kind of learned through all that is how to treat a human being as a human being, and not to fit them into a category. And I see, you know, especially when you see like children, like little boys, like little boys and little girls, like you have a little boy and a little girl, right?
Yes.
So you don't really see, I mean, you can see that the boys are boys and they like boy things, but as far as their emotionality and needing comfort and needing love and nurturing, they're the same.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think sometimes we expect our man to play a role, and we don't actually, you know, because it's uncomfortable for them to be feminine, and we got to be able to nurture them and let them be softer. Not that that's feminine, because it's not. That's, I guess, my point is that we have to start seeing a human being as a human being.
I agree.
Know? Yeah, and be there for them in all the ways. Know that maybe they're feeling anxious or they're feeling uneasy about something, and how you can be the strong one in this moment for them if they need it.
And I mean, I definitely I agree. I think we all have to develop like both sides of things, the feminine aspects and the masculine aspects. And but I just noticed that it's like I have certain people, like if it's sort of the right brain, left brain. It works better when you're in alignment, when the right brain and the left brain are like perfectly in alignment, and that's the goal. And sometimes there's a bit of an imbalance. Like for me, I just know for me, like I actually recently saw I love Taraji Henson, so I saw her movie What Men Want, and she had to learn how to communicate with men in the film, and she got like short-term psychic powers from like some psychic who was at a bachelorette party, and so she was able to read the thoughts of every man. And she was very much like a tomboy, raised kind of like a tomboy, and she kind of had to learn to balance out a little bit, and it only helped her career, it only helped her relationships and everything like that. And for me, I often am just not even in my feminine power, for whatever reason, just the way I was raised probably. But when I am, all of a sudden, like I click so much better with men and women too. It's like, oh, this is what this is the stride that it's like getting a chiropractic adjustment. I'm like, oh, this is the way I'm supposed to be. But then I go out of alignment again.
What do you mean by being in alignment with your feminine power?
Just like, I mean, I've never really tried to explain it, but just being more grounded in the earth and more like fluid, like water, and just kind of more open to being like a little more feminine. Just speaking a little more soft, or here, I'll try to do it. Okay, so the way that I've been the whole time on this call has just that's my natural default. But then the more feminine would be like, I don't know. I'll try to turn that on so that you guys can kind of see. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, like I kind of think about you know what? Here's the thing. I actually see you as really super feminine. I don't know. I just see you as you're kind of like a dream girl to me. Like your personality is something like you don't know that, and men probably love that about you. They probably just take one look at you and they're like, "Yep, perfect mother. Yep, perfect." Well, that's just my intuition. But I will say that I actually see myself as the same as what you're saying. Is that sometimes I would be so gruff and so rough around the edges, and I even heard myself on like a couple of these shows, and I was like editing some of it. I'm like, wow, I sound like a psycho, like. But I know when I talk to like a boy, I'm like, hey, and I tried to tell them once, this isn't really how I am, and they're like, yeah, it is. You don't know, but this is how you are. This is your real self, and I kind of like think of because I do a lot of who am I type of thinking, And gosh, like I spend the majority of my time like thinking about how cute everything is and daydreaming, and I'm like, I am a freaking girly girl. I don't know. Switching roles is kind of like perspective changes or energy changes. You don't really like notice them or something. It's like weird.
So I think it kind of goes, we really need to take it on a case-by-case basis when it comes to the idea of finding a partner or someone that we're compatible with. And what I mean by that, when we're talking about male and female, some males are feminine and some vice versa. And I think a lot of what that stems from is, the beliefs we have about ourselves and what we're taught to believe and what we're conditioned to believe, whether it's from our parents, or from our school, or from society, or from our jobs, or from what we've learned, or from what we picked up, and we come up with these beliefs. And those, in turn, are reflections on the relationships that we find ourselves getting into. We have certain beliefs about ourselves, and then we are attracted, and we attract those types of counterparts into our lives. Now, me personally, I've been through so many different types of relationships, and like I've said in other episodes, we have different chapters of our lives, right? So my idea, on relationships has changed drastically, in my life from one side of the spectrum to the other. There was a point in my life where I thought I was a good boyfriend, but I was not. I mean, I was emotionally unavailable, and there were times in my life where I was emotionally unstable. But what I wanted was to be, I wanted to be important to someone else. I wanted someone else to want me because I had a trouble with myself. It was just this idea of, lack of self-worth. And, a lot of us young guys, go through that, especially when we come from, broken families and stuff like that.
They use their relationship for validation. Men do that, I think. Like women do that too. Maybe women do a little bit more unconsciously. But that one article that I was going to have you read, the man was like, the reason I cheated on my girlfriend was because I felt so worthless that I felt like I deserved more of the sex that my friends got when I was in high school, when I was getting none. And I felt like, now that I
did
can,
read that.
I was just like, God, that. Go ahead.
That idea there, like putting a limit or a score on how much we have sex, I think is kind of like something that, you know, men do, and also something that women do. And the idea, and also what I meant about case by case basis, is that a lot of women um, share a lot of similar traits that we can say that men do. You know, we say men do this more, but I believe, you know, with my heart of hearts, you know, that women and men do the same stuff. Exactly
Well,
the same
we
stuff.
will do something, right? We will have sex with a man, and I know this is so terrible. I've done it in my past, you know, kind of, this is kind of really vulnerable, exposing type of, anyways, I
You
have
had the
sex,
military.
I would have sex with men because it made me feel validated. It made me feel beautiful and sexy and wanted. I felt worthy. And I didn't do it knowingly that I was doing it at the time. It just after I'd be like, you know, why did I do that? And I
Right,
asked myself that question a couple of times, and I come to that conclusion. I do it because it makes me feel important, and it makes me feel worthy, it makes me feel sexy and
right.
beautiful.
And it's
So,
also probably the conditioning. Like, okay, the way I was raised was like, be like, no sex before marriage. That was kind of the way I was raised. And so I was very conservative. But then, I mean, sometimes maybe not, but you know, I was whatever, conservative. But then it's still, it's been really interesting journeying as a healer, because I'll heal like us, like I'm like, oh my God, I've got to stop being such a heal, like a slutty healer. Like I'll just like heal all these people who maybe don't even want to be healed, or they'll give me nothing. And it's like I got myself drained. And I felt like, oh my God, well, it didn't really get me with the sex, but it got me with it's the same chakra, the sacral chakra. It got me with that chakra. So it's like I couldn't escape it. And I feel that because I was raised like the boy, and my sister was raised like the girl. So I was kind of the son. So that, you know, that's why, partly why too. And you know, so, but I think that it's the thousands of years of conditioning, that no, you're a woman, you're supposed to have sex with that man. You're a woman, you're supposed to heal that man, you're supposed to accommodate that man, you're supposed to, you know, do this, that, and the other
Yeah,
thing for that man. And that's why it's like, oh, why did I do that? And to just become aware, like, why
they
am I
like
doing this?
expected it. Yeah,
And you don't even know
expected
why
of
you're
you.
doing it, other than you've been basically brainwashed, and you're even born with that DNA and those collective memories. But I feel that there's a whole revolution going on for like just like equal rights, and just people are really like, I know I'm waking up too. I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was ahead of my time, but then with this whole accommodating thing, I feel that, oh no, I'm really not. Like I'm still like a victim of this ill of society that needs to go, and I'm kind of pulling out of it, and just trying to be trying to be the best I can be for my kids, like trying to train them so that they don't have to go through some of the same pitfalls that I went through.
right.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, a lot of times when it comes to when we find ourselves communicating with a man or a woman in a relationship, we have to ask ourselves, you know, like what our motives are. And, you know, for the early stages of our lives, you know, looking at ourselves and asking ourselves questions like that doesn't really happen. So as we transition, you know, through life, you know, our relationships are going to change, and how we view them are absolutely going to change, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it seems, you know, to me now, you know, after being in, you know, relationships, and then going through periods where I wouldn't be in a relationship at all, and being completely sexually abstinent for years at one point, um, I think what it really boils down to, you know, one of the things that they thought the leading cause or the demise of relationships, I think it was 2011 or something, was finances. But I came
Mm.
to, you know, really understand, you know, it's not necessarily finances, and what it really is communication. And
Yeah.
of course, we all know that, you know, that's this whole, you know, the whole cliche thing. But when I say that, people, you know, hear it and they nod their head and they go, "Oh yeah, communication, communication. That's right, that's right." But to really understand what I'm talking about here is there's two types of communication. Okay, there's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's the talking part, you know, where you communicate with what you're saying, and then there's the listening part. And it goes
Yes.
the same way with a man or a woman, and it goes the same way with a parent and a child, and it goes the same way with your higher self, with your higher mind. And we can sort of tie that into meditation as well, because that's the
mindfulness. Yeah.
well, that's the listening part, the other part of the communication, the knowing yourself. So by knowing others, we come to know, ourselves. And then one of the other things I wanted to bring up was, some of the the ideas we have and the mistakes, and due to the conditioning, that we believe things a certain way, but they aren't actually true. When we mistake things like love, when you talked about, when a woman, finds a man and she's infatuated with him, with the way he walks and he talks, and she's blinded by love, and I believe men do this too. I mean, I'm guilty of the same thing. Like, I mean, I think it goes hand in hand. Men and women do a lot of the same stuff. But what happens here is, when we talk about, love, we need to, recognize, is it love or is it attachment? Are we using that person as an excuse for us to feel the gratification? And I think after time in a relationship like that, the truth really comes out, and we find ourselves like with ourselves,
For sure.
we have this big thing there. So it's like, am I in love or am I not in love? Am I just in love with the idea of this person? Do I really know this person? Do I listen to this
Am
person?
I in love with the idea of how they make me feel about myself?
Am I being myself with this person? Do they even know me? So when we get into relationships, of course it's important to know ourselves as well. And at the same time, I don't want to come across like some type of relationship grandmaster or something. But as an alcoholic, relationships was something that I had to actively work on a lot. And I mentioned in the past that there were things that I had to actively work on, like punctuation and organization. And I had to work on, self-esteem. That was a huge thing that was happening in my life. I basically hated myself, and I had to actively, work on that. And relationships is another thing that we actually do have to work on it. And the way to do it is to have those experiences and look at those situations and look at those feelings and grope them and have them, right? So. Yeah, relationships are wild, man. And one of the things too that is really, really neat and really, really interesting, and I know that both of you guys know it, is that especially Cheryl, relationships, we get into relationships so we can know more about ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is like one of the most incredible things. I mean, my situation now, I mean, I've had a girlfriend for, it was like 6 years, 5.5 years. And we broke up last year, and we're still friends, but I go through stuff every once in a while where like I miss having a girlfriend, and it's like, what is it about myself that, is leading me to believe this? Like, how come I'm not complete? Like, do I feel incomplete? And what I'm trying to say is, sometimes we feel certain ways and we slide back and forth, and each day we feel different. Some days we feel empowered. Some days we feel fulfilled, and other days we feel lonely, and we feel like we want to be in a relationship, and we want to feel the validation. We want to feel the external validation from someone else because we don't have it ourselves. So it really, again, goes on a case by case basis, and it's different for all of us all the time. It's kind of wild.
Well, and there's also I kind of did I wanted to join a monastery when I was 25 or 26, and never ever be in a relationship again. I said, I finally realized that all relationships is just attachment.
Oh man, I'm
all done out of weakness. Yeah. I figured I'm going to meet a bunch of other Buddhas that are all levitating, and that I was just some, I was above all that or whatever. Anyways, I had to come back to that whole, and I had to kind of like ease my way into that. Like, actually, we come here to make relationships. We don't come here to be alone on some cave in a mountain, oming, for days and months and years and decades on end. No, I mean, we would have just stayed dead if that was the case, if we just wanted to be all spiritual. And now I realize that I want to be in a relationship because I want the companionship, because that's really, I think, in my opinion, I could be wrong or whatever, that's kind of what life is all about. It's about making relationships, having a family, growing and prospering with a person, with an other. And I could be, like I said, this might just be me, but Bashar even said that one of the neutral needs is companionship. So I went with thinking that it was only always because of neediness or attachment, and that's all. Like, we can be friends with anybody, or you can be in a relationship with anybody, and we have to really find that, I guess, the middle way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do like how you hit. I was gonna say something about that on mindfulness. Just being a good listener in general, and one of the big golden, when I was first using mindfulness and using self-hypnosis, which I was actually going to mention in last week's episode, but I didn't get a chance to or forgot, is that one of those trigger things that I would say to myself was, what is it like to be in this other person's shoes? And because I was such a monkey mind, and I was so rotten, we're all so rotten before we transform all those negative beliefs. And I hated that about myself. I hated seeing that. Again, I went through all this, this conversation and this instance, this occurrence that happened without thinking about the other person. I was just selfish. And in hindsight, I see, oh, wow, you were an asshole. And I just didn't want to be that way anymore. So I just kind of like feel my brain from my frontal lobe all the way back to the medulla on the back of the throat, and then back up to my frontal lobe. And I would just repeat to myself, what is it like to be in that other person's shoes? What is it like to be in that other person's shoes? And so I would, and when you get that in your brain, you can do it in just a second. The second somebody starts talking and you get a little bit pissed off, or you get a little bit agitated or overwhelmed or something, be like, okay, well, why are they saying this? What must it be like to be this person right now that's talking? And it just takes a second to retrieve what that is. Then you can make decisions so much better. And just do what you need to do so much better.
Wow. Yeah, I had a really big breakthrough today with that kind of a thing, where I
heard a cat.
Yeah, me too. I have one here.
where, and I love that. I think that's really cool. And I mean, I had a situation where my daughter was in this art class, and last week I got the day wrong because of President's Day. And so I drove her to the class, and I was like, oh, I guess no one's here because it's a holiday. And so I just, I had texted the teachers their class today, and then I just drove over just in case there was. And so I got my answer when I got there. And then she said, check your email. And there's nothing wrong with those words, check your email. But I felt such a weird vibe and energy. And I'm in a transition right now. And so I am a bit more vulnerable than usual. I'm in a very intense transition of my life. And I think a lot of people are. And and so I'm at a point in my life where I had to say, you know what? I only want people in my life that are fans of me and my family, my kids. Like, I can't deal with like people that are not fans of me. I just can't. I need people that will speak life over me. I need to protect my children. I don't need my children to internalize my like the shame, that the way that people might shame me because they don't understand me, because I'm different. And I have to do the right thing. I don't care if I just talk to my son and my daughter and my dogs. I don't care. Like, everybody's got to go. We've got to build from scratch, from ground zero. Yeah. And so I said, you know what? I texted the teacher, it's okay. We'll miss the basically, like, we don't need the last class. Like, and I removed myself from the situation, and then the energy immediately changed. And she was like, why? And she's texting me back and everything. And I I was like, how honest should I be with this person? I'm like, you know what? Don't be too honest on text, because it's better face to face. And I took a few hours to really make a decision. Do I want to let my daughter?
Did you read the email?
Yes, I read the email. Was like, yeah, basically the email said, the email was about the date is after President's Day. So I did read the email. But again, there's nothing wrong with those words. But for whatever reason, I felt a really bad energy. And it made me just want to shut. And there were other things too. Like there was just awkwardness. Like Cheryl talked about. I mean, she's talking about romantic relationships, but I think all relationships, there can be awkwardness sometimes.
Yeah.
So there was some major awkwardness after there was a real positive kind of start to the relationship. And so it wasn't just that, it was like a whole series of things. And I didn't want, I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but you know what? I don't really want to take the chance. It's just one more class. I'll lose the money. I don't care. I just can't deal with a maybe. Like I have to just opt out. And then the teacher was like, no, I think it's really, your daughters should get complete with it. She encouraged me to please don't cut this off. Just please do the last class. So I said, okay, thank you. Okay, fine. Yes, I'll do the class. Well, I show up today and it's feeling really awkward, really negative, really weird. And I'm thinking, why did she do that? Why did she invite me, like push for me to come back? And then I come and it's like really not going so well. And
maybe that was it. Maybe it was just to train you about your intuition. Go ahead. Sorry.
I said, I know, I love that insight. And I said, hey, can I talk to you privately when this class is over? And she said, yes. And I said, hey, do you have like a resentment at me? Because I could be wrong. I could just be projecting, or it could just be, who knows what it is. But it just seemed like you did like me, and then now you don't like me. And I don't know if I noticed you added me as a friend on social media. I don't know if there's something on my social media that's disturbing to you. I don't know if I did something. I don't know if it's because I was like 2 minutes late today or what, or a little late last week. But like, I just want, whatever it is, I want to clear the air. I want to communicate, and I want to clear this up because I really like you. I think you're a great artist, and I think you're a great teacher. And she's like, no. She's like, I don't feel that way. Trust me, I would tell you if I didn't. Like, she didn't. She said, I never would have asked you to come back to the final class. I would have just let you stay home. Like, I wouldn't have fought for you to be in this last class. Your daughter to be in this last class. I said, okay, well, thank God. I'm so glad we cleared this up. And then she ended up showing me her portfolio, and we're literally on the same page. Like, she is like a member of my dream team. Like, I'm like, oh my God, it was resistance. And thank God I didn't just pull out of this relationship thinking this just isn't harmonious. Thank God I actually confronted her in a sane way, not a passive aggressive way, not a angry way, just a very, and I had to admit, I had to be vulnerable and admit my fears. Like, and I had to have that caveat, like, I could be wrong, but this is my fear. I sort of said that I fear that maybe you saw my social media and you are, maybe I have fear, maybe you're judging me because of that, and this is regardless of her. I'm learning about myself and my belief system. And it's so ironic that she's an art teacher, because I feel so much of like what sometimes can hold artistic people back is the vulnerability and the courage that's required to really expose yourself. So, and then, the Oscars were last night. So there's definitely some stuff in the air
crazy
around the whole art thing and exposure. And like, even, Cheryl, you were exposing yourself and being vulnerable. And you kind of had that moment where you had to decide, do I want to say this, knowing this is being recorded, knowing this is going out on the internet? Do I really want to say this? And you went ahead and said it. So, yeah. So it's kind of that. It's kind of like being willing to put yourself out there, the truth out there.
So all those emotions and all those ideas came to you when you received the text that said check your email. Now, what type of text would have you preferred?
It wasn't the text. It was not the words. It was the energy that I felt. And I don't know
just the
where it was
feeling.
coming from. I mean, you guys know how it is. Like, think about chemistry, for instance. You're like, wow, there's some chemistry with this person. I wonder if they're feeling it. Or you think, wow, this person seems like they're like, Cheryl, you're a server. Like, oh, this person, like, we read people all the time. Like 90% of communication is not verbal. You know, like people, like you can tell if someone's like, especially if you're really in the spirit, like you can definitely feel if someone's having a bad day, or you can read their face, but you can also read their energy and feel it. And it, you know, I just went to a concert. Like I went to a concert on Friday, and you can feel so much energy in the room. Like I think everybody knows about energy when it comes to like concerts and that kind of thing. But,
and I also realized too that feelings never exist in a vacuum, that feelings are because of beliefs. And because I got into a lot of trouble thinking that, like you were just saying with her, what you were feeling was a reflection of your beliefs, even though sometimes you are getting nudged by other people feeling something too. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's just like you think. That other person could be feeling worthless. And instead of you think, oh, they must be judging me, you're just picking up on their own negative beliefs that they're having about themselves, which most likely they will project because that's what we do. But that's not, I do this all the time. I get confused. And it's funny that you mentioned the Oscars too, because I was watching the Oscars and I was like cringe city. I was like, is it just me, or I felt like I was reading everybody there and all they cared about was like, look at me, 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 look at me. I'm in the Oscars, I'm in the Oscars, I'm on TV, I'm on TV. And it was like disgusting. I was thinking like it was like high school all over again. And their dresses were hideous. And they looked fake and plastic. It looked cheap. It all seemed so contrived. Every time a person would come up and like introduce another person, it was so unnatural, and I didn't even recognize anybody there. I'm like, what happened to Hollywood?
You're so funny, Cheryl. I love it. I could not even. I didn't even try to watch the Oscars, and I used to always watch the Oscars, but it wasn't a vibrational match for me this year. Someone invited me to an Oscar party, and I couldn't go. Like I had no desire. I literally wanted to be alone. Like I need alone time. Like I did not want to watch the Oscars at all. But now I kind of want to watch the Oscars. Less now that I've heard your take on it, Cheryl. But I always, it's hard to watch something after it's already happened. But I'm sure I could find it somewhere if I really wanted to.
Yeah. And like I said, it might just be my own projection, and
I'm sure not. I mean, maybe a little, but I'm everything you're saying. I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Like, what are you wearing?
Right, just very 3D, very boring, very like, not a lot of. I mean, that's how I feel when I see magazine stories. I'm like, who cares about Meghan Markle's baby shower? Like, it's just always. I think having a baby and a baby shower is such a cool thing, but it's like the way they reported about. I mean, and I love fashion, I love it, but it's so boring. It's so like the way that it's reported and the way that the Oscars are covered, where it's all about, oh, what designer are you wearing? And everybody has that kind of mask on, like, look at me, like, just like you said, look at me, I'm at the Oscars, like, just not really any depth or weight.
I thought it, and I was talking at this point, because me and my uncle were actually watching a really good movie that I was like, oh my God, it's a good movie. It was from the 1950s. But anyways, and during the commercials, we turned it to the Oscars and I would watch it and I'd be like, I can't take any more of this. I I can't stomach another second of the Oscars. But then a performance came on. The last one was absolutely, it was Queen's "We Will," and everybody in the audience is like, "Doom, doom, rock you," and they're like laughing and clapping their hands. And I just remember when I was in preschool, and I used to love that song.
Yeah.
And it just made the whole thing even more hysterical. But then right after I told my uncle I can't stomach another minute of this, an amazing bluegrass performance came on. It was just majestic and took me away, and I was like, okay, thank you for some sort of redemption there.
I think what it really boils down to is kind of like what you were saying earlier, Ansley, is that, you know, when we sense certain energies, we can tell it in different people, we can tell it in the environment, we can sense it with, you know, crowds of people. And like another thing that we talked about in other episodes of our show here, we talked about the shift. And I think ultimately what it boils down to is, you know, our interests lie in other things. And when you're coming and when you're like, when you're witnessing or observing something that's not like necessarily a vibrational match, like for instance, Cheryl, when you're watching the Oscars, you know, it's just this complete, like, I don't know, this like extremely focused on the physical reality and on the physical materialistic ideology of society, right? And that just doesn't resonate with you anymore. It doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't resonate with a lot of people, Ansley included, and just like a lot of us. So I don't think that it's like it's either wrong or right, because I know that there are a lot of people that enjoy that and, you know, watch that and like, I guess, think that it's neat and think that it's relevant. But for us, it's not. We're just simply going in other places. I mean, with the spiritual practice that we do, with the awareness that we have, with the shift in consciousness that we have, it's just another neat thing to let us know how much we are growing, where we come from and where we are now and where we're going, and the separation from the friggin' humdrum TikTok 9 to 5 physical reality life, where these material things are what measure our worth. You know, like you were talking about, you know, who are you wearing, and I'm wearing this, and it's like, who are you wearing? Like designer clothing, like you know, the clothes on those women's backs and those men's backs are defining, and you know, they're defining their worth. You know, there's a lot of people like us and our listeners, you know, hopefully, that we're a little bit beyond that. We're just a little bit disinterested in that. We're interested in other areas of what reality has to show for us, offer. You know, that's all.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Just two real takeaways are that it's a polarity thing, and again, it goes back to what I was saying about being decisive. And you can make a decision, but you can change it. And so, like, in this situation, I made such a quick decision, and by being decisive, the universe brought it back around, and then the universe made it like pretty magical, like a really good connection and relationship to make. And it really was, I mean, my beliefs were manifesting, and I was experiencing a completely different reality than the person in front of me. And the person was like, thank you so much. I've never met anyone like you who's so honest. You literally, like, I've never heard anyone be so honest and authentic. And so many people wear masks. Like, you do not wear a mask. And so I was like, thank you. That's the best compliment ever.
She was like, you must be so fetch.
What?
I was like, she said, you must be so fetch. That's
what?
From that movie, Mean Girls.
Yes, I love that movie. I love Mean Girls. Such a good movie. But no, it's just it's the reason people, even those Oscar people, it's like, oh wow, like, let me hide behind like my designer, like I'm wearing Gucci, and now you don't have to look at me as an artist. or me as a woman, or me as a mother, or a wife, or a person, or me as a whatever. You can just, let's put all the focus on this other thing, Gucci, and that whole thing. It's just it's a way for people to kind of avoid like exposing themselves.
Now that I'm thinking about it right now, like perhaps there's another way that I can really take a look at that, because I mean, Cheryl, you said before that you were watching that and you found yourself becoming kind of judgmental, and you were like, I don't want to be like that. And you also talked about removing yourself from a situation. I think when it comes to, designer clothing and the Grammys and the Oscars and the Emmys and stuff like that, and maybe it just has to do with how people choose to express themselves.
Yes.
I'm looking at myself now, and I have a certain type of clothing that I choose to wear. I have a certain image that I am, and I believe now, the image that my body is and what my aura is and my energy is a reflection of what I truly am on the inside. Whereas when I was younger, it was not in alignment. Like I was not feeling like I was comfortable in my own skin. So and in a weird way, maybe someone could look at me and be like, oh, look at this guy with his piercings and his tattoos and his muscles. Who is he showing off for? But who is this guy with this bright red mohawk? And I can be like, well, that's just how I choose to express myself. So maybe the people that are kind of doing the same thing. That's just how they're choosing to, express themselves.
Yes. And I think that goes back to this whole idea of like earth and
for
fire.
Red mohawk, so.
And that's cool. Yeah, it goes back to like earth, fire, water, and air. And I think that it's very like it's so easy to communicate with consciousness and with society and social media and larger global and regional communities and communities of unique shared purposes, whatever. It's so much easier to communicate in universal languages that people understand. People understand the language of costume, color, clothing, dress, pants. They do understand that. And
they use it as a form of communication. Gotcha.
It is a communication that anyone can understand. Music is a communication, especially just pure notes, not even lyrics, that like more people can digest more easily and absorb pockets of data, and it makes it so that less people are excluded from the conversation. And so yeah, I'm having to really think of ways that I can be more grounded and less in my head and less with words and everything. And it's like I love what you're saying about an image, Trent, because I think that's such an accomplishment. My hat is off to you that you're saying that even though it wasn't always this way, your image of how you portray yourself is extremely deliberate. It's extremely representative of who you are in the inside. Everything from your hair, mohawk, piercings, tattoos, muscles, clothes, all of it. It's all in synchronicity and it's mirroring your inside. And I think that is amazing accomplishment. And I think more people, I would like to do that myself. And I have had phases of my life where I did do that, but for me it has to do with consistency and being decisive. And you've made some very clear choices and you're decisive about maintaining those choices. And I think that everyone really needs to like ask themselves, like, is the image that I'm presenting, whether it's your picture or what you're wearing or what your body's like or what you're showing up like or what your hair is like, is this representative of who I am on the inside? And it always is. So it's like, okay, well, if it's Trent's very happy with his image, his consciousness is externalized. He's very happy with it. Well, that's great. like if someone's not happy with it, what is that? Your body and your clothing and all that, those choices, they're still trying to tell you something about you. Like, it's almost like, I think when people get sick, or when people, you know, maybe put on weight or get acne or whatever the case may be, it's like, it's still trying to tell your consciousness something. It's trying to send a message back. And it could even be trying to send a message to other people as well. Like, please help me, or I don't need any help, or I love myself, or I don't love myself, or you know, it's still communicating something.
Right.
Well, you know, one thing I just want to add, like, I used to be very fixated on image when I was in high school. And I was like, I was in a group of, like, I guess a clique, and we called ourselves the Freaks. And it was sort of like a goth punk, some skater type image, you know what I mean? And I always said, you know, I always said to people, like, I'm free, you know, I just look how I want to look. And but with me, and I'm not saying that this is what's going on with you at all, but with me, it was actually another form of conformity in a sense. And so I just want to add to what you just said, Ansley, that you can express a different thing every day.
Right.
And yeah, like, because I'll actually, now I don't even really care that much what I look like. I just want to look, you know, good, and, you know, wear shit, like stuff that accentuates me or whatever. But, you know, if you want to dye your hair red and have a mohawk today, and then tomorrow you want to wear a business suit, you know, with Armani alligator shoes, and then the next day you want to wear, I saw a guy at the restaurant wearing not a shirt, a black shirt that in bold white letters that said not today, Satan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that's just, I wanted to really, you know, when I broke free from this fixation on image, because I was like, my makeup would be perfect, my eyeliner would be perfect, everything on me, every hair was placed perfectly, and I was saying I didn't care.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean? I don't know. You know, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I wait on a lot of elderly people, and they all kind of look the same. Their hair all turns gray. It's all the same. And then I see who they are when I talk to them. And some of them, this one woman was so giddy. She's like, I'm turning 91 today. It's the best day of my life. I'm like, really? She's like, getting old is so great. It's so fun.
What? Wow.
Yes.
That's a gift to meet someone carrying that message.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I need to hear that.
Yeah.
what I want to say was, Cheryl, back in high school when you were dressing up with like your like 40-inch ankle Jenkos and your thousands of keychains all over your backpack. You know, you said that you wanted to be free, but what was happening there is that was how you were free, because that was in most alignment with yourself on the inside. And now for me, even like we all have different, we all wear different hats, you know, like, you know, that I have different jobs. You know, I'm a fitness instructor, but I also do catering. So I'm in the food service business, and I'm also I'm at weddings and restaurants and artists and entertainment conventions and stuff like that. Okay. But when I wear my nice suit and my tie and I'm walking around, you know, passing hors d'oeuvres, I can still have a mohawk because it's like Ansley was saying, it's the energy that we have. So I still have, I believe, and I mean, I guess it's true because I'm hired all the time to do these jobs, that even though it's a red mohawk, it's still, in a way, maybe on someone else it might look like they're too,
Yeah.
I don't know, bright, too colorful, or too unnormal, I guess. But I think with me,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like 5 inches long and spiked. I mean, it's cold. But anyway, and also too, and we can change, you know, the way that we look with the tiniest things. You talked about makeup, you know, like everything with makeup. When I wear my glasses and I wear a collared shirt and I'm like sitting down reading a book, Like if you see a picture of me doing that, you'd be like, what is this guy? And then earlier in the day, you'd see me, working out, with all my fitness stuff and muscles everywhere, and like doing all these pull-ups and calisthenics moves. You'd be like, oh, it's a totally different person. But what happens there is when we're in alignment with our core beliefs, when we're in alignment with ourselves, with our true nature, we are free and we are ourselves, even though we might appear different from time to time. And like you were saying before, Ansley, which was a really, really neat thing there. One of the things that I had to really, you congratulated me on having a mohawk and making a change with my fitness and my body type and all that stuff. But there were trials and tribulations that came along with it too. And one of the largest things was a necklace that I choose to wear. And I wear a necklace that doesn't come off. It's like a rope, but on it is this enormous bone. And it's my sister got it for me when she went to some country on a vacation a few years ago, and I really, really liked it. Okay, it's in the shape of looks like a tooth with all these carvings and stuff all over it. I think it's really, really neat. And for the longest time, I didn't want to put it on. I wanted to wear it, but I didn't want to because I didn't want people. And this is so crazy. I didn't want people to look at me and say, "Oh, look at that guy and his necklace. Well, what is he trying to prove? That's not him. Why is he wearing that big thing? He thinks he's so cool with that big necklace." Now, this was me talking about me, pretending I'm other people talking about me. So I had to really come to the idea where, like, you know what? I'm just gonna wear it because I feel good in it, and it makes me feel like myself. I'm just gonna, my ego was telling me, "Don't wear this because people aren't gonna accept you."
I had a thought.
Let go of my ego, and now I wear this humongous necklace, and I have a mohawk, and I look the way that I do because I'm in alignment with how I feel, and also, that could change. I don't know, man. I can change. Who knows?
I had this thought
better.
Today when I was shopping. Right, we went to Walmart, like my favorite store. Anyways. I had a flashback of when I was like 12 and I was just or 13. I was just getting to that age where you had to be super cool. And I remember, this is how weird, our minds are just so crazy, monkey minds. Yeah. I liked this shirt, but I didn't want to get it because it was on the main display, like super important looking. And for some reason, I just didn't feel worthy of it or that. I felt bashful for choosing it. Isn't that weird? Like I had that flashback today because I looked at a shirt. I bought the freaking shirt. It was like off the mannequin. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even care. But that's how worthless I felt as a preteen. That like I remember my mom asked me. She's like, "Oh, that's a cute shirt. That's right up your alley." And I was like, "No." Even though because it was just so perfect. Does that make sense?
Yes. I absolutely, yes. And I think what that is, and as much as sometimes we don't want to hear it, but like when it's our ego pretending to be the other people,
right?
Telling us that we're going to be rejected.
That's what happened. That's kind of what happened to me, and it can literally, because like, okay, whatever you're looking at right now, it's not even real. Because it already happened, and there's a delay between like what we see and what actually happened. There's like I don't know how many second delay it is, but so it's like it's a lie. So it's irrelevant already. Everything, like the tree I'm seeing is like nothing's even what's going on. And so yeah, we literally it's so important to like do the mindfulness and figure out, well, what am I thinking? What thoughts are coming through me? Because some of them are yours, some of them are collective consciousness, some of them are other people, but pretty much all of them in a way are you. It just, where did they come from? So but they're all you, and you're gonna just see what you believe. And it's sort of about getting free of enough old ideas to do what's honest for you in the moment when there is that cognitive dissonance like you had with the shirt. Do I buy it? Do I not buy it? Why do I want to buy it? Why do I don't want to buy it? I like to be like, well, what are my fears of buying it? What are my fears of not buying it? And then see what I do. And just, yeah. So, and yeah, just those conflicts of like, oh, well, the me 5 minutes of me, but the me, that's a good color on me. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go for it, you know, or even though I normally never do that, I've had a change in heart.
Yeah, I love that spiel that we just went on. But I wrote this note down from what we were talking about earlier about relationships, and I just was going to ask you guys about it too. I see this a lot with people who are going down this path, and there's kind of a split between whether do you think you can be happy with somebody who's not into New Age metaphysics or whatever. And what is your take on that, being with someone who isn't spiritual and having a harmonious relationship?
It would be a big divide, that's for sure. It would be kind of like, yeah, I mean, it would be kind of like you viewing Oscars.
I
don't know. What do you
mean,
I absolutely think so.
I think that relationships are really important for like cross-pollination and just learn. Like, I think it's really cool to align with people that are a little different than I am, because I learned something from them. And yes, I want some similarities too, I guess, so that I have that relatedness and reflection that I crave. But like, for instance, I'm trying to think of some of my relationships. I mean, like, one of the first relationship that I was in that was serious, I just was like, oh my God, like, this person doesn't look like the kind of guy that should be my boyfriend. He's not good looking enough, da 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 da. And I was very vain about it. And eventually I broke up with him. And then the next person I was really into, and he was an engineer, like a bioengineer, and he was like older, like 4 years, and he was a PhD and I was an undergrad, and he was so different than I was that we were kind of a good match, and we just kind of complemented each other well. And then he was not spiritual at all. He hated my spiritual side in a way. He wasn't spiritual in an intellectual way, but he was spiritual in an engineering way and an athletic way, and even in like other ways too, like a social way or a like physical way. And then another relationship I was in, the guy, he was really like, he could understand a lot of the metaphysical side of me, but it kind of like, he was like, I understand all of that, but I am not into talking about it. I just want to go ski, and I just want to make, I just want to have a family. Like, when can you have a kid? Like, let's have a kid.
Men with their decisiveness.
And then, and then someone else was like, could kind of get the metaphysical stuff, but didn't really definitely wanted to talk about it more than anyone else. And I was like, oh my God, cool. But they had a real artistic side, so there was that relatedness. So we were like the same. We were very similar. And then my, the man that I had kids with, like, we're very similar in terms of like the spirituality, but that doesn't mean that, I mean, we're almost a little too similar in that way, to the point where sometimes
it's not enough to toe the line. Just having a lot in common. I learned this too. Just having a lot in common with the person you're with, as far as interests, isn't enough to toe the line.
I think it. Yeah, like, I think this is a good show because we are somewhat different. We have different, like, a little bit of differences. I think you learn more from people when there's differences, and I think especially in this day and age, I think that's what I see as a trend, is a lot of the couples are people that are actually more different than you'd imagine, than than what we would have expected a few years ago. That's what I'm seeing, that left and right from the top down.
I think for me, what I'm observing and what I'm kind of coming to understand is that in a weird way, we all have this checklist of ourselves and a checklist of our potential partner, right? And on that checklist are things, at the top of the list are things that are very important to us. And then as we go down the list, it's things that are not so important. And what it really boils down to is when it comes to, now in my case, personally, spirituality, fitness, nutrition, and stuff like that is very, very important. So if I were to be in a relationship with someone who was not physically active, physically fit, someone who didn't look like I did, someone who didn't have the same principles as I did.
What about somebody what about somebody who was actually interested? Maybe they haven't achieved it yet. You know what I mean? What about that?
That's a no.
No. I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, I guess they would have to walk the walk and talk the talk for me to be genuinely interested in having a relationship.
Well, everybody's different. And this is what I really loved about what Ansley just said. Because when you asked her the question, it took a lot for her to get her point out. And what her point pretty much was is, first of all, you can't judge a book by its cover. And that book is never finished being written. And one thing that I also know, I think everybody has the potential to become addicted to working out, or even to be spiritual, even if it takes them, the remainder of your relationship to see where you were coming with a lot of those things. That might actually be something that's really good for them. And you also might come around to more things, And one thing I also noticed, like I said, everybody's spiritual. Everybody's athletic. Everybody wants to be healthy, really, ultimately. Everybody wants to have understanding of the other side or a closer relationship with God, however they might do that. You know what I mean? So I kind of am seeing more because I used to see that I couldn't possibly be with anybody that wasn't as completely obsessed with ETs as me. And, I've come... Go ahead.
I'm not to interrupt. I mean, but
no.
So, like you said, we're all, the chapters of our lives are always changing, right? But then so do the relationships. So at the point where I'm at now, where spirituality and physical fitness and nutrition are very important to me. Those are things that I would like to have, a similarity with my partner. And if she were to have differences, like differences of opinion, whether it would be, I don't know, material things, even, then it would be kind of like they would be lower on the list. And then those things wouldn't, I guess, matter as much. So there would be sort of like a compromise that we would make. So
okay, so I just want to interrupt this one. Okay, so this guy I really liked. I asked him what matters the most to you, and gave him a checklist. So one of them being money, God and spirituality, looking beautiful. And he was like, money and looking beautiful. And then I would continue to ask him more questions, because I knew this guy was the most loving friend ever. He never saw what you looked like. He just loved you for who you were. He always wanted everybody to feel happy. He quoted Holy Scripture a lot more than he thinks he does or admits that he does. And you know what I mean? I don't know. Some people really are just fixated, and they, who are you wearing? I'm wearing Gucci. I'm wearing Prada. Yay! And they're like, the stars are so rich and so great. And that's all they do. That's all they think about. That's all they care about. But other people have so many layers to them. They actually are deep. They are spiritual. They are meaningful, even though they really don't really kind of get that about themselves. That's why what you said, Ansley, was so great, that everyone is so completely different and you just don't know. And when it comes to what that guy said on that forum, men not being sure if they love somebody or not, you know, and a woman can say right away, I know I love this person, right? But women, and my good friend said this to me, women will change their mind. When a man commits, it's for life. And I thought about that for a really long time. The men are the ones that say, I don't even know if I love this woman, and then look at it very left brain, like, do I have fun around her? Am I comfortable around her? Can I see myself spending a long time with her? Where the woman is just like infatuation heaven. And then after a few years that fades, she gets bored, she leaves, he's finally committed, and he's distraught over it. I see this happening more than not. Just something to add there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I think what I meant to say or wanted to say was like, we can't be. I mean, we accommodate or we conform, right? If the interest is there enough, right? But we're not compatible with everyone all the time, even though that
definitely
changes.
not.
So it's really on a case-by-case basis, and it really boils down to if it's important to that person or not. So like you said before, Cheryl, you're asking Ansley and myself if we can be in a relationship with someone who's not spiritual. For me at this moment, I don't think so. I mean, I can imagine it. I can imagine being in a relationship with a woman who has no idea about the, energy flowing through all things, the concept of how we create time and the concept of how we experience time and how everything is just belief systems and, consciousness being the, mechanic and love being the fabric of creation.
Well, maybe they do see it, but they just go, that's a neat idea, and then go back to thinking about it.
That's so ridiculous.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I was gonna say, well, Trent, unless he remembers, but like I think that the way, if people, more than anything, people, especially once you're, I think given the era we're in, 2019, I do think there's a spiritual awakening going on. And like, I think that it's very important. I think to realize we do teach with our energy and our vibration. And that not with our words, not even with our intellect, but like, that's how we're really teaching people and relating to people. And so for me, like, I think also we're attracted to two things. We're attracted to our wreckage, so wounds that we have that we need to heal so we can heal those false beliefs. But also we're attracted to people that maybe have something that we want that we maybe don't think that we have. And so it's like, okay, like or it's an area that we want to be stronger in. Right. So, and I think it's about knowing when to get in and also knowing when to get out. And I think that every relationship matters. Like, I think that we kind of have to just get out of the way of this, like, oh, well, if it's not for life, it doesn't count. Like, I've been reminding my clients, like, no, you were in a relationship for 5 years. That's a huge accomplishment. And, look, you brought a child into the world and you did this. And like, it's not a failure. You got all this experience being in a relationship. And even my friends that are single, I'm like, or my clients, I'm like, listen, it's good that you're single. It's better to be single than with the wrong person. You have higher standards. You're getting more emotionally mature where you're not just with someone because you're afraid of being alone. It's good that you can have a healthy enough relationship with yourself that you can be alone and wait for the right person to come along. Or the people that do date, it's like, oh wow, like usually I'd be with someone for 2 years, but wow, we dated for 2 weeks and it's over, and we fell in love and we got engaged and we did this and all that, and it's over now. And so it's like, it's kind of accelerated, like they burned through so much that they needed to burn through so quickly. And I think a lot of relationships are about healing wounds that people have from other relationships, the most obvious being the mother-father wounds that people have and the ancestral wounds that people have. So we never know. I mean, there's always a reason people are in our lives. So you
Well,
know.
yeah, to help us. I believe it's to help us grow with our spiritual evolution, physical reality.
Hmm.
Well, one of the things that I was going to say, um, when we get into a romantic, intimate, sexual relationship with someone, right, and we claim, we are in love. I said before, sometimes we mistake love with attachment, and when I
Mm.
talk about that with my clients or anybody, they acknowledge. They go, "Oh yes, that's right, yeah." And then they sort of just, then it just goes away. And it's like, so looking at then, when in a
Well,
relationship with someone, uh, I went through a big stage when there was a big breakup with my son's mother and I. And I thought that, I loved her more than anything. I wanted to be with her forever, and no one could get in our way, and it was just going to be great forever. But then, and I felt like I was totally in love and everything was just dandy, right?
Mm.
Then when the relationship started going, south, there were a lot of disagreements, and there was finances was a big thing. And at that point in my life, I wasn't really a good listener, so communication
Mm.
wasn't really good.
Mm.
I wasn't good at relationships then. All right. So what this brings me to the idea of, at that stage when the breakup was happening, when we were
Mm.
done, we weren't together anymore, right? The thought of someone else making her, you know, grab the sheets, you know, in bed made me so enraged.
Mm.
I had to really take a look at that
Mm.
and look back and think, so I thought that I was in love with her, but I felt like she was like honestly, I'm being really honest here in a way. And I know a lot of guys do this. A lot of us do this, even women. She, in a way, subconsciously or unconsciously rather, was my property. And she
Mhm.
wasn't allowed to be with someone else because it would make
Mhm.
me feel bad.
Mm.
So it was only
Mhm.
after, and then this kind of goes in when you love someone, let them go, right? You've heard that before.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
let them go. When we broke up and she got into a relationship with someone else, and then they broke up and she got into another relationship, and then she remarried, and then she had another child.
Mm.
After all that has happened, I was able to look at myself and do the work on myself and
Mm.
relationships and what my beliefs are. I honestly love her more now
Mhm.
than when we were together. And what
Yep.
I'm saying is that we're friends. We're friends
Yep.
now. There's no attachment. I'm free to just
Mm.
be myself, and she's free to be herself and do what
Mm.
she wants. Now, this last relationship I was in, with a woman, we broke up about a year ago or so, where she said that she didn't want to be in a relationship anymore, and we remained friends, right, this whole time. And for a small amount of time, for a couple of days, it was, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, she's all I had, because I'm 35, I think, or 34, and this is a common thing that's going on with a lot of young men. I know this. I just read this in a magazine a little while ago. We're we're like losing our friends, and we're
Mhm.
sacrificing friendships for our relationships. Okay, so I got to a point where I didn't have any friends. I went to work and I exercised and I hung out with her, and then I went to bed. And that happened for years, like 5 years now. So when we broke up, it's like I had nothing, and I was like, gosh, she's all I had. That's what I thought. That was this big blow. And I had to really look at
Mm.
myself and go, well, it's not, that's just what I believe. That's just how I interpreted it. Did I really love her? Or was I just in love with the idea of being in that relationship? And then the idea of her being with someone else. Well, that kind of hurt too. And I had to really, look at that and go, okay, so this is just like I was feeling with my son's mother. I had to really nip it in
Mm.
the bud. And I just meditated and meditated and read and did all this stuff and really worked on it and came to the idea that the relationship that her and I were in, right? And then she said she didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. It wasn't the ending of that relationship. Okay. The relationship that her and I have was just transforming into something else.
Mhm.
And I chose to understand and I chose to believe that our relationship was turning into something better because we were becoming
Mhm.
friends now. because now she was free to go be in another relationship. She was free to not have to tell me where she was, what I was, and I was free to do the same. I was free to not have to see her or see her when I could or this and that. And there was so much tension relieved, right? And that was kind of like, you know, a beautiful thing when it comes to the idea of, you know, when you love someone, break up with them, see how you feel. If you have a marriage and children.
I just want to throw a whole, like, huge ass wrench in this, okay? And expose something about myself that probably will get me into some trouble.
Yeah, it's getting good now. Do it, girl. We're here for you, along with our millions of listeners.
Yeah, no, I don't care. I don't care. I'll just go ahead and expose it all. Really, I'm polyamorous. I think that if my significant other wants to, and not like open relationship, no, I mean like add someone to our family, I'm cool with it. How crazy is that? And I just don't see anything wrong with it. I just don't see.
No, a lot of like really like high vibe people that I know, they want a man and a woman. They want a triad.
It's easier with more.
Yeah.
It's easier with more. If she can have kids and I can have kids,
wow.
I can work, she can look after the kids, or I can stay at home and teach everybody's kids. We can have kids in lumps. They'll be easier. I want more kids, really. And I'd be fascinated with, you know, the person that I love, seeing his genes come out in another woman. You know, that's good stuff. This is all I know.
It is. Wow. Well, all the stuff that I said before, I guess I believe that, but like those situations, those are challenging, hard situations. So what you just said, Cheryl, about watching the man you love like share genes with another child, with another woman, like that is some like next level.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I want him to have more kids and have more fun.
In a situation like
it's
that,
more villagey.
I would have to just seriously friggin' look at my
biblical.
Multiple wives. Go on. No, this is awesome.
Would you want to have like okay, you're both the wives, or what?
Even here's the thing: he has to have the freedom to try something on, like date a little bit too. Mm-hmm. So even, you know what I mean, finding somebody compatible enough to where you can have that. What do you mean you have a wife? Yeah. What do you mean she's cool with it? What? And be like, yeah, and you gotta meet her, and y'all gotta get along, and you know, just that all has to come into play because it might not work out after, you know, some time. Right. And be like, well, you know, maybe somebody else will come along or whatever. And yeah, you know, the way I look at it is, if you don't own that person's body and you don't own that person has experiences, maybe we might decide that it's not for us and we're fine the way it is. But either way, sign the dotted line until death do we part. I don't think that necessarily needs to mean now I own your body and your soul. Like, it's so evil. That seems evil to me. To do
it
that
is.
To somebody.
You don't believe in the concept of cheating.
So that would take away, like, but here's the thing: I would want him to be responsible. Like, you don't go out being all, you know, having one night stands or not being honest with the person. Honestly, there's not many people mature enough to see, like, we're friends now, maybe we could be more in a polyamorous relationship. That person would have to be working on themselves so much. It would be a very slow process to introduce that person to our family, or she would have to already be flirting with the idea, which is even going to make your chances even smaller of finding that person. So, you know what I mean? It's just such a touchy situation. And also, you know, you have to be confident in yourself completely. And I'm not there yet. I'm just saying that.
You don't you do have to be a little bit confident, but also here's my thing. My whole goal with relationships is I don't like, and Trent really echoed this point that I'm about to make. I don't want to be reliant on another person for anything. I really want to be radically reliant on myself and God for my well-being, minute to minute to minute. So when a feeling of jealousy might might come up, like what you're doing, talk about getting free. Like you would, if you were in that situation, you would have to like continue to get free. Like things would come up, but as long as it really is like pushing yourself in a whole other way to get free of like jealousy, which is self-hate. So yeah, you must love yourself quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
If you're even willing to consider that, because you know, so many people get jealous because they don't feel special. They can't handle that. You know, someone might hear me on this show and be like, oh my God, why can't you be more comfortable around me like you are around Cheryl and Trent? No one has said that, but they might be thinking that. You know what I mean? Like you never know. Like people could get jealous of anything.
Yeah,
you know?
anything. I'm even saying that I would want my significant other to experience someone even more like younger and more beautiful in that way, because you know what I mean? That's just all a part of it. And I can be like, oh my God, you know, you're so pretty, you're so beautiful, and be happy for that person, even if like her boobs are perkier than mine or something, you know what I mean? Like you just accept it. Just accept that my arms are flabby. It's still beautiful. We're all beautiful. We feel safe. We feel like we can be ourselves. We can be crazy. We can be stupid. We can say stupid things. There's still the love. There's still the security there. So when you love yourselves and you know that they love you, you have enough security to do this. It's definitely not for everybody. Definitely.
Right. That's tough. That's some like serious like self-mastery.
I know some people who've been in these relationships.
Swingers.
No, but okay, what was I going to ask you? Cheryl, have you ever been in a relationship like that before? Like with a like,
you know, not really. When I was
people?
in my first my first serious relationship ever, I had my best friend and I in high school. We were really, it started in middle school with me and her. We were so close. Me and this girl were so close. It wasn't gay or anything. Like sometimes we would like act gay just to make other people like amused or something, but it was just some serious friendship. We would even hold hands everywhere we went. I would tell her I love her. We'd cry together, just saying, oh, I love you so much. I love you so much. Anyways, I was cool with letting my boyfriend do like, you know what I mean, more relationship type stuff with her. Even sometimes they go out alone. And because I was secure in everything, and I was younger. I went through a very long period after this where I wasn't okay with it. But I kind of remembered the utopian feeling of that kind of made me come to this conclusion now, because we were all like validating each other. I made sure that she felt safe. She made sure that I felt safe. And he was just so super open about everything like that I was cool with it when I was way younger. And I haven't really thought that way until recently. It was just a couple of years ago that I realized that this is actually, in my opinion, a more expansive idea about having a relationship. Not an open relationship, but a polyamorous one.
Well, so would you be like, so you would be kind of like in a relationship with both of them. It wouldn't be like your husband had two wives.
It would naturally
It'd be like you have a wife and you have a husband, and everybody's got a wife and a husband.
So
the man has two wives.
That's something that would have to evolve, because I don't even know if I know myself enough. Like I said, it would be more like a sister wife that you can be completely safe and open with in that way. Now, I could never be with just another female in a relationship in that way, but I can see a little bit of fuzziness in the lines, especially when it comes to a polyamorous one. But it would be a completely different role. You know what I mean? I would have more of the wife role, and she would have more of the wife role, and then he would be like our husband, rather than us having that because in like gay relationships, there's still a mix-up of a masculine and feminine between the two, either two females or two males. So in this instance, I would be very feminine. She would be very feminine. But, you know, women can be there for each other. Like I said, I can be able to relate to her on things that maybe he can't, and I can make her feel safe about things that maybe he can't. Or whenever he's being insensitive like men are, we can be there for each other, or we can even together, because mastermind it, two minds are better than one, to help him understand. You know, and whatever happens, I think when it comes to sex is sex. I kind of don't see that as the same as the relationship. And that's, I'm not really going to speak on that, but I'm not even going to, you know, just for privacy reasons, but that's my take on it. It would be more of like a sister-wife role, and just complete and utter friendship. And I want to have complete and utter friendship with my husband too. I don't really want there to be the archetype thing, the duality, like you're a man, I'm a woman. We're friends, we're partners. We have to grow our finances together. We have to raise our children together. These things are all more important than just how we make each other feel in a relationship type of sense. It's a community, and it's a responsibility, and it's a friendship first and
there
foremost.
we go. Our other topic is getting weaved in somehow, community.
Yeah.
I think that's cool, because it's like, it is, I know for me, it's been, and Trent, you have a community too, because it's not like your son has basically like two father figures and one mother figure, and now your son has a younger sister.
Yeah.
So there's three parents and like two kids.
Yeah.
And you know, even though you all live in different houses, you live in the same town, and there's a whole structure to it, and there's a support system, and there's a community. And I know for me, and what Cheryl's describing is very sane. Oh my God, Cheryl, like, where were you before I like had my kids? Like, you've really thought this through, you know? Like, a lot of people don't always think this stuff through. Like, I was like, I can do anything. I can do this. Like I had, like, sometimes I had no idea what I was getting into in terms of like kids and just community and just how much work kids really are. Like, they really do. Like, I mean, it's a real, especially when like mine are so close together. They're Irish twins. They're 18 months apart, and like they're not like, one is in school, but it's 3 days a week, and it's 8 to 12. So yeah, it's a lot. And it's, you do have to have a community and a support system ideally. So what you're describing is, and also marriage can be really hard to relate to the other person. Like, oh, what is this man thinking? And da 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 da. And to have that, what you're saying about the mastermind is really smart. And it's like a built-in marriage counselor, you know, just rotating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know for me, when I had sort of a unique situation where I was with someone, and then I met I met my husband, and like I said, okay, you know, I was like, yeah, you know, I like you. And he's like, but you have a boyfriend. I'm like, he doesn't really care. Like, I think he just wants to be friends. And that was true. And then I told my boyfriend, I said, you know, I've met my husband now, so it's cool. Like, now you can date other people, because I was never cool with him dating anyone else. And so we, like you described, Trent, me and my ex we were way better as friends than we ever were as a couple.
Right.
Way better, because there was way too much pressure that we were each putting on each other when we were together. Even though we were friends first for a year, it was not a good fit, but at least we tried. We had to try. And at one point, right after my daughter was born, I mean, I had my daughter, and my parents came to the hospital to meet my little girl. My sister came to meet my little girl, and my ex-boyfriend came to meet my little girl. So he was like already in my family, and it was like, of course he has to come and meet her, and it was totally fine. The three men, like my dad, my ex, and my husband, went and installed the car seat in the car. so that I could drive the baby home. I was like, this is so weird. Like, my life is so
No.
weird.
That is
You
so
know?
cool.
Cheryl loves it.
Yeah.
And then right after I had light, I got a weird notice on my door that said, like, you need to move. And I think neighbors were complaining about, like, the baby crying or something. It was really weird. I was like, oh my God, this sucks. And then we didn't find a place. And my ex had just had someone move out. I'm like, dude, I think we might have to come. He's like, well, if you absolutely have to, you could come here. And I was like, okay, this is not what I want. Like, I'm in a new marriage. I have a new baby. Like, I don't want to go live there. You know what I mean? But we like didn't find anywhere else. And I was like, whatever, we'll just be here for a month or two. We were there for 2 years. It was amazing having the extra help. It was amazing having like another person who loved my daughter and who could walk the dogs and like hold my daughter so I could meditate. And, you know, and like my husband and him did not get along that well when we were all living there. But, you know, we haven't lived there for like 3 or 4 years now. But like they're really good friends now. So you never know what could happen. So,
That's
and
cool.
they got along
Yeah.
okay when we're all living there.
You never know.
I think for me, I have to say like some type of like, I guess, disclaimer or something. When I'd have a lot of work to do, you know, on myself to be in a relationship, right? So those experiences that I've had where after the relationships have ended, where I have found that, you know, a friendship really reflects more of what, you know, true love, you know, would be, like unconditional. Right? Because if we're experiencing things like jealousy or resentment or anger or fear when it involves, you know, our partner, then, you know, those things are getting in the way. So we have to ask ourselves, like, what is this feeling that we have? Is it really love? Because is there a direction that we're putting it? You know, is there a restriction that we're putting on it? Is there a label that we're putting on it? Is there a condition that we're putting on it, right? So my disclaimer, I think, would be, you know, if I were to get into a relationship, let's say like this week, you know, with someone else, right? I still do kind of like the idea of the exclusiveness of it. And I think, you know, like a sexual exclusiveness thing. Now, when, you know, my son's mother, even before we broke up, like a year before we broke up, she had guy friends that she would hang with. She would get off from work, she would come all the way back home, and then she would leave, right? And she would go hang out with guy friends. And she would do her stuff, and I would go to bed. I would put our son to sleep, and I would go to bed because I had a different schedule. I'd wake up really early, and I would go to bed very early. And I was totally fine with her hanging out with dudes, you know, late night and going to bed alone most nights. And the reason why I was okay with that is because the idea of her cheating, right, never occurred to me. It was only after the relationship ended and then the reality of her being intimate with another man was just like, oh my God. So I'd have to really put a lot of, you know, work on myself to be in an open, you know, type of relationship like that. And I think
it's not open. And secondly, you get, you know, I'm not going to say like you get bored or with just like the same thing all the time, but like when you're really in a relationship and you're in it for the long run, you're committed. And I think this goes for women a little bit more than men. God, men can just have sex every single day and it's always new. It is always great. It's always exciting. And I think it's kind of like that with us, but not as much. Like, I got other stuff to do sometimes. It's not the main focus of everything every day like it is for a man. So kind of like, I don't mind help keeping him happy, I guess.
I can disagree. I think women are like that, and I think men are like that. It's case by case basis. That's just my.
I'm talking about after 10 years or so, after 20 years, you know, things get a little bit different. Yeah. I know that that's going to happen, even though, like, you know, if I did enter the polyamorous relationship, it would probably be before I was, but I'm aware enough to know that. I'm aware enough to see that. And when you work for something, you can do anything. You can achieve anything you want. You know, like you can have not a penny in your pocket. And if you just work at it, you'll have a house within 2 years. starting from nothing with no qualification, that's possible for anybody. And if I can do that, and I can have a business within 2 years, I can get myself to a place where I can have a polyamorous relationship. So I just see that when you work towards it, it's possible.
Right. Absolutely. That is perfectly perfect and perfectly valid and super important, because I think we get into the idea there, that there are relationships, right? But then there are also new relationships, and they have a different energy, to them. And, when I talked about being in AA, in one of our other episodes, things we were taught was to keep the focus on ourselves, right? So when someone in the rooms, or someone's going through some stuff, or not necessarily a romantic relationship, but a friendship or a other type of relationship, we would say, oh, that's their shit. I'm keeping my side of the street clean. We're taking care of ourselves. We're going to make sure we do the next best thing. But when we're in a relationship, when we're in a new relationship, there's no longer their shit. It's now our shit. And we're doing things and we're doing things together. So that's kind of where the communication part comes in, and respecting the other person, and doing things together, and not being half a person, each becoming a whole, right? Because that whole idea where, oh, this is my better half, this is my other half, this person completes me, type of thing. What it really, should be like in a new relationship is a couple, two whole people joining and, doing things together. So there really is no, like I said, there really is no their shit, or that's her shit or his shit. It's our shit. And it's important that our listeners, I think, understand that that's not where we are coming from, and especially Cheryl, the idea that, a more or less open type of relationship is, an idea for like a long-term type of thing, after you're comfortable with it, after you're comfortable with that type of structure in a relationship.
Yeah, well, like you said, everybody's a whole, and you have to respect that person, and another thing, you're never really going to know everything about a person. Even if you're married to them, they're still going to be their own unique individual person that goes through their own changes in life and everything like that. So I guess giving each person the freedom to really be an individual, we should have that when it comes to being in a couple. But if you master that, then I don't see any difference between being a couple or being a triple.
Right.
I have never heard that before, a triple. I like that.
Yeah, because
is that a term, or did you just?
No,
come
I
up with
just
that?
I just come up with that.
One day what it is. It's a triple.
One day it's not even legal to be polyamorous right now. This is ridiculous. Like, one day you're going to be able to marry more than one person, just like now 2 women can get married or 2 men can get married. We should be able to add another one to the
I especially really like the idea that the idea of being in a relationship like that, where we're comfortable with ourselves enough to let the other person make those types of choices. That is just like incredible. Like that, like blew me away. And that's like right up my alley with like the stuff that I'm learning and need to reinforce, especially.
Everybody has their right to an experience. And even if he, you know what I mean? Like, say he is interested in another woman or something, he's falling in love with her or something, he shouldn't hide that from me. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't do anything wrong. We have the right, he has the right to have changes happen in his life. I don't own the person's reality. I'm not their God,
I know. I mean, okay, like, yeah, I love that. Like, you're the kind of people I'm looking for, like, who it's all about honesty and communication. And so what you're saying is you just want to like know about it. You want him to, it's true friendship. But, I mean, one of my kind of advisor type people once said to me that, because when I was thinking about getting married, like, you should only really get married, this is what she said to me, if for a purpose, either a business purpose, maybe you're going to do a company together, or maybe you're going to have a child together. And I was like, okay. And so, yeah, we've done both of that. We've done both. And so you're saying that you don't want to own that person, but I know I know that you would want to come to your friends, but you're more than friends. You'd be attracted to them, but also you'd want to like have a child and have like a shared life and a shared space and a shared like finances and all that,
Yeah.
It's just I guess it's those levels of purpose that you have with someone, and just figuring out those parameters.
Yeah, and I'm saying this, I have not actualized this, I've never done it. I'm just saying that right now it seems like a more expansive idea and approach. I'm definitely open to it. In fact, I think it would be fun and great. But if it doesn't, happen, or it can't work out, or I don't, because I need to do some growing before I'm ready for this.
Right.
I know. Yeah.
Awesome. What a great show.
Yeah, I didn't even expect to bring that up. Yeah.
Cool.
For sure. Yeah. There's so much that can be said about all this too, I was with a guy that was more obsessed with this spirituality than me even, and we just didn't have any chemistry. And I've been with people that could take it or leave it, and the chemistry was amazing. And I've been completely attached, and I've been on all the different sides, and I don't even really know exactly where I stand. Every day is changing.
Right.
So men can be feminine and females can take those other types of roles. If you think about a lioness in the jungle, or if somebody's mauled by an animal, it's usually a mother that you got too close to their cubs and they went crazy on you. So
wow,
it's hard to define the men and woman thing, really.
Thank you for saying that, because I like my good friend who, like, he sometimes will watch my kids, and he's like a brother to me. He's like their uncle. It's like he's could be in a new relationship. It's been kind of on again, off again, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want that woman around my kids. Like, I'm getting like freaked out. And then I don't know if you guys are empaths, but I'm an empath, and like I think it's extremely hard sometimes for empaths to be even in relationships, because it's like, even just being this guy's friend, it's like I'll connect to all the stuff in his energy field, and then all the stuff in her energy field, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to do a radio show. I don't want to be in your energy fields right now. Like, get me out, And it's just, and as a healer, I have to be so careful working with clients to like cut the cord, and like, I don't want to like hook into people's energy fields that much. Like, it's too much. Sometimes relationships and intimacy can be too much for like someone that's highly sensitive or very empathic.
Well, and there's a lot of things going on rather than just you perceiving their energy. It's also you being able to determine what does and doesn't belong to you. So this can all be an aid to the training of you being able to be an empath that gets stuff done, that can go out in public, that can perceive it, and it not be all of a sudden it's cycling through your belief systems and stuff like that. You can, you know what I mean? So yeah, I am an empath, and it did mess me up for a while then, but you don't need to be, you don't need to fall apart just because you're around a psychotic person necessarily. Yeah. Like what the girl at work, like I told you guys about, I don't have any problems with her now. She's just as strung out as ever, but I'm fine. I just do my own thing, I perceive it left, right, and center. I'm perceiving, so I'm like, I'm dodging, like a dodgeball, just better at it now.
Yep.
I see it coming, but it doesn't need to hit me in the face. Right.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I have control over it, but it's like, I don't know. It's funny what you said about like the kids and like that mother kind of instinct. And Trent, do you ever feel territorial with like another man being around your son?
No, I haven't experienced that yet.
That's good.
I think I do kind of empathize with that. That'll probably be a challenge with me once I do have kids, because I don't even want my kids to go to public school.
Yeah.
But that's like, yeah, that's a whole new topic. We've done that one before, but there's so much that can be said about that, just like there about relationships and meditation and oneness. We could just really just talk indefinitely. But yeah, I think tonight's show is a wrap, and it was a great show. And thank you guys for
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for
doing this.
revealing yourselves.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
so
you, Trent, for
yeah, thanks so much for letting me be on the show. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, good night, and I
Yep.
love you. I'll talk to you
Love
later.
you.
Good
See you
night.
next week.
Much love. Bye. Yay! Let's do it. So how are you doing, Trent?
So, very well. Thanks so much for letting me hop on and be a part of the show. This is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat to have an outlet to express our views, thoughts, beliefs. With others, other like-minded people, I guess, too, that are, searching to expand their awareness or expand their consciousness and sort of